Hey everybody, it's Heather and Devon here with Dive In Decisions. And this week we want to kind of just dive into a few of the issues that we've seen this week. One's going to be the skimmer price increase that everybody, of course, on social media is talking about. The next one's going to be more so about how to price weekly service, especially Florida, like where we're at versus where Devon's at in Texas. Complete night and day, right? And just overall how our week has been. So Devon, I'll let you kind of just dive right in.
Okay. Well, I never used the Skimmer app first and foremost because it seemed a little expensive out of the gate. Mainly, we were trying to find software for 300 pools, right? When we implemented that. So Skimmer was already like more than three times, using Ion. I'm not saying
Oh yeah.
anything against it. That's prior to the price hike. It's just I looked at it in the sense of like, why would you charge me per client? Like when someone else is charging per user, active
Yeah.
user, by the way. you know
Right. Yeah. Not
yeah,
not even vendors and stuff. That's what everybody is talking about. They're like, we almost doubled, if not doubled. I have to go back and double check, but they're like, if you get on their accounting platform, then it's not so expensive. And then of course everybody's like, why are you charging me per user versus like all the other softwares do? You know, it's
yeah. And I do
back and
see
forth.
comments of folks saying, oh, well, it doesn't even, it's not even 1% of our total revenue, so like we don't have to worry about it. And it's like, what are you talking about? Why don't you just leave all your lights on all day then? The goal is not to get something close to 1% of your revenue. you know your goal is looking at this going, am I solving this problem efficiently with X amount of money? For
And
instance,
time for sure, because the whole point of us using software is we want to make sure that our text in the field are accurate. We're not missing billing items. We're communicating with our client and reoccurring. I think that's like the major pinpoints in routing and mapping, as a service professional.
so let's do some math real quick. Okay, so I got 560 pools. We're going to multiply that by two, what it previously was, so it cost me 11.20 a month. Okay, to monthly. So now we're just going to times that by two. Now it's going to cost me $2,200 a month. That's almost a whole nother position I could fill. Like
Right. That's another
legitimately,
admin.
that's
Yeah,
that's someone
almost.
I can
Yeah.
hire even on part time and manage something like, and give someone resources. Instead, it's being invested in this. Where with Ion, I pay 15 per person. We got, let's say, 15, so I'm paying 225, 250 a month tops, and that's with 560 pools. So my cost is next to nothing, right? Like split
Right.
split that into 4 weeks, like yeah, that's nothing. So it's
Yeah.
like $55.
And Ion, I use Ion too. And Cassandra, oh my God, we got to get her on here one day too. But Cassandra laughed at me so much because when Chris and I decided to start the pool company again, I was like, well, it's been a few years, so let's actually take a look at what's going on with the software industry and see what we look. So we looked at Pool Brain. Don't get me wrong, Pool Brain has a really good idea, but I actually learned the backstory about Pool Brain as well because I kind of dive into the backstory. So they took Ion's platform and robusted a little bit, so to say, right? And what I loved about Pool Brain is it made your cost per customer very simple and easily. I love that. And it's very me and my bright colors. I love bright colors, right? So I had a lot of bright shiny colors. So I love that user interface. What I didn't like about Pool Brain was admin side, since it's just Chris and I right now, I couldn't change anything on the fly on the admin side. It was absolutely horrendous trying to go to the URL on the admin side to do that, right? And because I use the spin touch on Pool Brain, I couldn't at the time when I looked at it, I couldn't do like actually total chlorine, combined chlorine, copper metals, irons, like all those I couldn't add to it. It wasn't customizable like it is in Ion. And I can pinpoint where if I wanted 7.4 for pH, or if I wanted to be able to enter like 7.8, whatever. So back and forth with that. And both of those platforms do charge per user, right? And after all looking at all these, I looked at Skimmer, I looked at Jobber, I looked at Ion, I looked at, Pay the Pool Man, I looked at all these different ones. And of course I went back to Ion, just kind of playing around because we serviced a few of them like on a trial me basis for a couple weeks. Pool Man we had like for a month, and I couldn't get over the admin side because, since I don't have Cassandra here full time, which kind of sucks, which she'll be back once we're ready for her. I can't wait for that. But Chris is like, oh God.
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, you're gonna just start that fire all over again.
I
You're
know.
you're forgetting an app though. We had a meeting with SCP and they are launching
Mm,
the Pull 360
yep,
and its
yep.
main competitor is Skimmer, so they're only charging $1 a client. And I sat down with the regional sales guy of Texas. He's pretty much the head guy of the whole deal. Um, and uh, and he brought up the app, and all this. And I'm like, look, I go, here's the issue. I go, what problem am I going to solve more than what I'm already solving? Well, they could do this, they could do this, they could do this. And I go, that's not a problem though. So what's a problem? Like that
Solutions. Yep.
yeah, yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, I could do something, but so can everyone else here. Like I'm not wanting something that's going to turn off everyone's brain, like it's not an issue. And it was still $1 a person. So I did the math with them and I showed them, I go,
A
dude,
client or a user?
client, just
Okay.
like Skimmer,
Yeah.
so but they're charging $1 for it. And so essentially we looked at it and it's still that, I had to explain to him, I was like, dude, it doesn't, I'm doubling my costs. And then someone's got to input all this information. Someone's got to take
Does it
all,
integrate with QuickBooks?
they all say it does, but let's
But
be honest.
online versus desktop, right? Two totally different things, which is one of the reasons we went back with Ion is because I hate QuickBooks Online. It doesn't give you your margin very well, so many different because I am QuickBooks certified, right? So I know the big differences a lot between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. So that was an important factor for me. And how do you feel with like if you were to go, let's just say cost aside with the 360 for SCP. And the whole big debate with that is they're taking your data and they're reselling it to like pinch a penny and to targeting ads online because they do sell to the public. So how would you feel about that as a service company?
I don't care.
From
I mean,
what I've been told.
there's
I don't know if that's accurate. That's just what I've been told, right? Allegedly. Allegedly, we'll add
everything
that
we
in there.
search is getting sold. So
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, I don't have enough time to figure out what data they're punching. As long as
Yeah.
they can get it right and give me faster to what I want to buy online, I'm all right.
Right. Well, there's a software like we use too for targeting for our marketing. Like a lot of service companies don't know this, but I resell it. Like if somebody wants to, for my integrity business, if somebody's like, hey, I want to market to this particular income with this particular ratio that has a pool with this dynamic, I pull it up on my targeting software and I resell it to homeowners, or not homeowners, but pool professionals to market to homeowners. And it's a great utilization tool, but a lot of pool professionals are like, I don't like SCP having my client's information, but little do they know all this client information is fully online with 2 clicks, and my targeting software will pull up every pool within a 30, 50, 100-mile radius, whatever radius I say, and it skips over. Now, it for the new pools that are getting added in that range, it's not quite accurate, right? Because it has to have some time to get into the permitting system, into the software, so it takes a little bit of time for the newer pools to be built. So, like, there's that catch 22 with that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about anyone stealing data. My main cost is why am I going to pay $10,000 for a $5,000 car? Like
Right,
that's
exactly.
how I look at it. So and that's kind of the only way. I don't care if I'm saving $500 a month or whatever. That's still money that could go to a bucket of shock, which is, yeah,
250
yeah, yeah,
bucks.
yeah. That's the next to gold nowadays.
Oh my God.
So
So I went to our branches here at SEP here, and I'm like, hey, I need 100 pound of refresh. We don't stock it. I'm sorry, what? You don't stock 100 pound of cow hypo? No, it sits. I'm sorry. So that tells me nobody's oxidizing their pools here. What?
well, how much do they? What's the coring price down there?
So I don't know
I
how much
guess
the
yours.
100 pound is because they don't stock it. So I had to buy a
What do
25
people?
pound.
What do people do?
Most of the pools down here are salt, right? So a lot of
All of them?
acid. A good 90% of them are salt here. Yes.
Ev
90% easily. But you still have to oxidize the pool occasionally. So that's why they
yeah.
don't buy the 100 pound buckets. They only buy the 25 pound buckets. But every single one that I've been off has combined chlorines because nobody here really checks the combined. And so I'm having to kill those damn chloramines like crazy. So I want the 100-pound bucket of shock.
So they don't sell granular chlorine down there.
They do, but it's in 25 pounds.
So it costs like $50 for 25 pounds.
80, 75, 80 is what our cost is on that.
Oh,
Give
wow.
or take, depending on the brand, of course. If it's the refresh, if it's the Chinese import stuff that they had still from COVID that's still there. Everybody's like, just go to liquid. I'm like, no, 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 no. I just don't like liquid. I do want to adhere to as much regulation as possible, right? Because obviously with DOT, there's only so much that you're supposed to carry in your vehicle. And when you have all these gallons of liquid of chlorine, you're well over the allowed amount for your DOT regulation. And I don't want to get fined for that.
Is that a
So,
Florida thing?
oh no, it's DOT all over. But
Oh,
Texas, you don't have 31-gallon or 5-gallon jugs of liquid chlorine in the back of your truck mixed with acid and everything else we got going on back there. Well,
no,
not
but they
mixed, but
they
they're
they
in
got
little
some
containers.
buckets though, you know.
Oh yeah. They got those 100-pounders.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm just like, God, it's insane. So this past week, Chris and I, hubby and I went to the NPC conference. So that was really cool. We had about NPC is about 500 members, and I'm always curious because I am on the committee for NPC on a few different committees, and I'm always curious. So, like, if you're listening, I would love for you to leave your comments or shoot me a text message or an email or something. I'd love to know if you're a builder or a remodeler, because that's really what NPC is for. Anything that deals with plaster and the building and remodeling side, like why you are or are not either or a member of the NPC. Like, what do you see the value of it, right? And I know y'all aren't members of it because you don't build, you don't remodel. So for you, Devin, it's not really until you get to that point, it's not really a benefit for you. And but we had a lot of good classes that happened in a lot of collaborations, and Chris connected with a few different manufacturers to help with Basecrete because Chris and I are really heavily involved with Basecrete and kind of bringing that and then just kind of collaborating with other people about where they were struggling in their business. And the two biggest classes I think in my opinion that were there were talking about waterproofing and is it good? Is it bad? Why do we waterproof? What do we need to look for when we waterproof kind of deal? So those classes both were huge. And in one of the classes, it was a heated debate between not Base Crate manufacturer, thank God, because Vito has a really good product. Like I love Vito's product, but it was another waterproofing product, and there was several contractors in that thing, and the owner or the higher up, I'm not quite sure, was there for that particular brand, and they were just having at it for about a good 15 minutes. And so the moderator finally had to stop and like, okay, look, this is not going anywhere. But it was so great because we had two, we had us as a waterproofer there for, representing Base Crate. We had two other waterproofing manufacturers there. We had like CLI, MPT, we had all the manufacturers there for that aspect. SGM, we had, builders, we had contractors, we had architects, we had engineers all in one room just collaborating on the waterproofing. And it was a great, great response and turnout where everybody was actually starting to collaborate like okay, well, my issue is this, my issue is that. And I learned something new which was kind of shocking to me. And I mean, shit about pools, right, Devin? So I kind of want to pick your brain on this even though you don't build or remodel. But a lot of the plaster companies are like, I'm not going to warranty the plaster if you go over a waterproofer. And for me that just blew my mind because I'm like, you're watering a defect in your product, right? You're watering a pigment loss. Not watering, sorry. You're warranting a pigment loss. You're warranting for rocks falling out, right? A defect with your product, not a bond issue. If you install it over a waterproofing and you don't waterproof correctly and bond correctly and you have delamination, there's nothing for you, the manufacturer, to warranty anyways. So why would you not warranty your product over a waterproofer? I'm curious. I don't know, but I want to get a manufacturer in here and go like, okay, let's get to the nitty gritty and find that out because some of them are like, oh yeah, we want to waterproof, like, but well, And then that terminology is not accurate, right? We want to say like watertight or water sealant or, something along those lines because we all know cementitious products, there is no 100% waterproofing. Even if we put a colloidal silicate with a desifier in there before we do it, right? It's hauled night and day. So that was very interesting. I should take you with me next time we go, Devon. Like seriously, just
Does microglass ever come up in those deals?
as far as the
Just
what?
in building or
Mhm,
plastering or
yeah,
any of that?
microglass was there too. Do you like
Yeah.
microglass
I don't know. The guy I met some guy that I guess is, I don't know, some he's in the board or whatever.
for
And
MPC or for microglass?
no, for microglass.
Mm.
And he was wanting us to start selling it and doing it, and I was just like, I don't know, you know.
So why
Like,
why don't you get into remodeling? Yeah, I'm just curious, like your business plan in the next 5 years, why don't you want to get into remodeling, or do you?
I mean, it's probably more of a timing issue than anything. Because if you look at it from our side, I'm gonna just go into an industry with such crap margins in the extent of it's just a tad cutthroat here, because there's big fish buying up all the companies, you know, and then everyone's just fighting tooth and nail. So when you kind of see that and you're going, well, I mean, we're usually at like a 20 to 30% growth rate every year, right? Like bare
Which
minimum.
is great, but that's great because a lot of people don't have that growth rate year over year like y'all have been,
Yeah,
and that's a big one too. Like, where do you advertise? How do you get that growth rate?
we don't advertise.
Yeah, yours is a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah, yeah, we
And
just
Will hustling Leslie's.
yeah, we don't do that anymore. And
But
I'll still
that
hit
was
up a
great
security.
though.
I still hit up a security guard. I'll talk
Yeah.
to him every time, and then eventually I'll hand him a stack of cards. But it's probably just because we have the most reviews out of anyone, and it makes us look like we're large and established. People
You
don't really like admire that, but I
mhm.
mean, we chase down reviews ridiculously.
Oh yeah, you have
Like
to nowadays. And
I think we're at
everybody's
like
like,
300 something,
yeah,
you
that's
know?
great. And y'all hired a company, to help with that too. And if anybody's listening to this, Devin and I had a long, extensive conversation about like, hey, Heather, how did you get so many reviews? So, and I'll tell you the way that I did it. And if Devin wants to divulge, the way that he does it, that's up to him. But like for us, I still do the same thing to this day. So and if I'm going to clean a pool, and let's say it's a recurring cleaning, I'm gonna after about 4 to 8 weeks, give or take, somewhere in that time frame, I'm going to email the client a thank you card. And I actually have them here. I can show y'all, but I created it in Canva. Very easy, very simple. It's just saying, hey, thanks for supporting a small business. Here's the QR code to review once Google, once Facebook, or wherever you want to review it. And then on the back of that postcard is coupons, right? So I have coupons for those people. And then I'll mail that off. I'll wait about a week or two. And then I'll be like, well, I'm there cleaning. Hey, did you get my postcard? Yes, great. Well, I look forward to the review, right? And then if about a week happens, it doesn't happen, then I'll actually approach the homeowner and be like, hey, can I see your phone so we can go ahead and write that review down now? And in doing so, I'll give you a free filter clean or a free, you know, floater, whatever, we need to get that review. And then in Dallas, when I remodeled and when I built, I would basically do the same thing. So during the remodel, when I was doing my actual 30-day startup, after the startup was pretty much done, minus the last week, I would actually physically hand them the postcard at that point and make them do it while I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I did my builds, and that's how I did my remodel. So that's the way that I deal with that. Don't A lot of people are afraid to ask for the review. People, y'all can't be afraid to ask for the review because if you don't ask, you're never going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you do it a little mafia style,
I do
you
because I
know.
want it.
Prior to Podium, the Podium jumped up the most, and then we used someone else. That was horrible. But I would say getting the first 150 was was just, talking to folks, being
Hmm.
more personable, and then just bring it up. You're like, if you get done and they want to call you back, just, hey man, if you could throw a review on there, it'll really help out. And I'll when I'm leaving, I just send them the Google link, They go, there you go, just click it, do whatever, you know.
Yep.
Um, but I mean, it's really simple. I mean, but I would even go to the extent of if I was at a restaurant too, I'd just tell a server, go, hey, if you leave a good review here, I'll leave a good review for you, and yeah, I'll tip you $20.
That's a good one. Okay,
Yeah.
but so let's talk about that because there's been a controversial about doing fake reviews on Google to boost your business, right? I honestly have never thought about that, but that's a really
Well,
fun
what
idea.
it helps them, it helps you, and it gets them $20. Like so, it's
Win-win.
not. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could be like, oh, it's malicious, and it's like, what do you? Who cares? Like the thing is the real judgment starts when you get to their house, anyways.
Yeah,
So prior to that is just getting the call, right? You need the initial call to then show substance, to be
right.
like, look, this is who we are, and I mean, we're extremely fast. Like if you fill out our webpage, we might still be at your house in 20 minutes. So,
Oh yeah, because
um,
everybody wants stuff now, now, now,
yeah. So
all
I
day
mean,
long.
that's our advantage by far. But I mean, we're pretty quick on it, and I if you even give us a 4-star review, I'm calling you, for
Yeah, because
sure.
we want to know. Because all business owners, I do the same thing, and that's part of why I'm like mafia style, like you say. Because if they're like, "Well, I don't really feel comfortable giving you, a 5-star review," because I tell them, I was like, "If you can't give me 5-star review, now is the time to tell me because I need to fix it. And if I can't fix it, then we either need to set amicably, or that gives me training for the next motivation. Because, you know, as business owners, the homeowners see our employees more in the field than we do, right? So if we don't know something's going on, it's always good to have that conversation with said employee as well as homeowner to figure out what's happening to learn as a training. And hopefully everybody here that's listening does actually training sessions with their employees. You have to do training to make sure that customer service, morale, staff turnover rate, all that fun happy jazz, right? And I know Devin, y'all don't have a very high turnover rate either because y'all are awesome to work for. And and I hear that a lot. Like when I came and trained with y'all for your classes, that's one feedback that I got from all of your employees was just, you're awesome bosses. I think it's because of me. I just rubbed off on you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. No, we're in the field, you know.
Yeah. And
Like,
that's why, because y'all are so used to that. Because I mean, Chris and I were the same way, and it's you can't have absent owners that expect your employees to do things that you as the owner wouldn't do. I don't believe in that. That's why like when I first started learning how to remodel a pool, my ass got down there and the guys a fucking A. I wish we would have recorded this. So the first time that we shot shotcrete, the guy's like, "No, you don't want to do this." So I had my boots on, I had everything on, ready to go, my little coveralls on. He's like, "Heather, I promise you, you do not want to do this." And this was when I was 250 pounds, right? And I was a lot stronger. So I'm like, "I can do this, right? No problem."
I was
He's
about to
like,
say you did say little coveralls, and I was like,
yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah, no, I was 250. I was 250. I was at my 130 that I am now. But it was like one of those things and the guy stood behind me. There was two guys behind me. We like one on the left side, one on the right side because they knew. As soon as that pump turned on, there
Hmm.
I go.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, okay, this is a lot harder than I thought it was, right? So, but I'm in there. If I'm mucking out a pool, I'm down there mucking out a pool too. You know what I mean? If I'm learning to tile, if I can't do it, I don't expect my guys to do it. And if there's something that I can do, I'm gonna reach out and get trained. Like there's a guy here named Ray, and he is down in Miami. He does all tile pools. Phenomenal, phenomenal work. And I told him, I said, "Hey, the next time you have a local one, I want to be there with your guys and I want you to teach me." He's like, "Yeah, no problem." Because I want to, obviously, I'm never going to be that skill of his employees, but damn it, I'm going to try. You know what I mean?
mm, yeah,
And, it's just things like that. Just people, just your employees really take a look at you as the owner and how you're treating them and what you're doing. If you're absent, you came from corporate and then you're just there to run a business versus being present and there. And an open door policy, I think, is very important to a lot of employees as well. And learning how to mitigate like the younger generation with the work. That's been a big issue in our industry as well.
yeah. I think it's mainly just because all the training is horrible. Like we have a culture, you know. And so when we bring a younger guy in, we throw him right into the, into the dog pen.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gonna figure out the
You're gonna
culture,
learn
you're
it.
gonna enjoy it. Yeah. Like what do we do when it rains? Clean the pool. Like what are you talking about? Like you're
As
not
long as
gonna
it ain't
melt?
lightning, you're good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, keep going. You got to build some grit. And we've had guys that we had to get rid of just because they didn't have that.
Right.
Um, and but the rule of thumb is, hire fast, fire fast to an extent,
Fire
right?
faster. Yeah, hire fast, fire faster.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, you gotta make a decision, If you question someone in an extent of knowing if they're going to be worth it, then have the hard conversation, But we're also really accepting too, so we're not afraid to test someone out. But you know, if we are curious, if someone's aptitude, then we got a guy that's going to pick him up at 6 in the morning, to start the route just to see if he can deal with that,
Mm-hmm.
or if he asked how many pulls do we have left, he'll call the office and get filter cleans just to delay the day, just to push them, you know, figure out
Yeah.
where their mental strength's at.
And where it's
So
not. One thing that I loved that we did, and I think like you were very good at that. Rick was good at that. Steven was great at it. I think all of our people were good at that. Shane was good at it. Will was good at it. Because as a smaller company, right? And I say smaller when we have, less than 1,000 pools and, under 100 employees. I think that it's very important that everybody works together as a team. And what we used to do is, if the guys were finishing up early, and let's say you were cleaning pools, Devon never cleaned, but let's say Devon was cleaning pools and Will was done, Will would always call either you directly or the office, be like, hey, I'm done. Is there something else that I need to pick up from my route? Is there somebody else that I can help? Like that shows good culture and teamwork as well. Like I was very blessed with all of my teammates, and thank you, Devin, for doing that because you did that a lot too. And it's great. It helps the business grow, and then you can knock out more service calls and more work orders and stuff like that as well. So that's a good pygmy point too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in general, uh, yeah. I mean, we're probably looking for someone else pretty soon. But I mean, yeah. I mean, we're just
Oh, you looking for a cleaner?
yeah,
All right, DFW people, you hear Devin is hiring. So if you need a pool cleaner position, go to him.
yeah. I don't know if they could take it.
I don't know. I don't know.
you know,
No,
yeah,
Devin and Will are awesome to work for, and all of his office people, staff are great. So just, firsthand experience, I will tell you. So let's
yeah.
go, let's talk about weekly pricing, like Dallas versus Florida, because that's been a big controversial. Like I posted in my Florida pool groups, hey, why are you? Because I had somebody reach out to me that wanted me to purchase a Vero route. And I was like, well, how much do you want? What's my ROI? What do you include? Blah, blah, blah. The normal questions that you ask. And he was like, oh, our average is, 120 a month. I'm like, it's not worth it to me. I can't make money between trucks, car insurance, business insurance, chemical costs, time, labor, you know what I mean? All the fun things that you add up as far as a business. And I don't understand how people are. And now it wasn't like they were all in the same neighborhood with back to back to back. That would be a different story, but they are not. So of course, I just pulled my reports yesterday, or not yesterday, excuse me, Wednesday when I was doing my billing for this month because I bill my clients the month of. So they get a bill like on the 19th, 20th, give or take, and it's due by the 3rd of, the following month. And that is for like March, like my March bills. Everybody's already pretty much paid my March bills. And my average cost here, my average pool is $190 a month. And my average. I have pools at 150, I have pools at 250, I have pools at 300, I've got pools at 325, I've got pools at 350, and I have one at 400. And they're all residential. And there's nothing fancy smancy about them either. They're all 12 to 15,000 gallons is about my average. A lot of them are caged in. I have two that's not caged in. It's because of the chemicals in the process that we do differently compared to other pool people. And I have a lot of people who are like, Heather, please tell me how you get that because I'm struggling to get 100, $110 out of some of these homeowners, right? So let's tell the listeners what Dallas charges.
I mean, we started 225.
Yep, all day long, no
And
problem.
well, no, I wouldn't say it's, but I mean, um, but then even then we're looking at going higher.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, you might ask the question a little differently. How are you going to identify yourselves to customers?
Yep,
Because if I
exactly.
if I want a cheap haircut, then I go to Supercuts, you know. If I'm gonna take my wife out on a date, I might go to a real barber, right? Like so,
Barry might
and
taking
that
her a date
makes
to get haircuts.
and obviously, like you're gonna pay a huge deal, but they're doing the same thing. They're literally gonna take off the same amount of hair. They're going to do the same thing, except one of them's gonna look significantly better, and the other ones, they're offering you beer while you're getting it cut because they know it's gonna look like hell. So
Get you drunk
it's
so you don't notice. And that makes
yeah,
a great point because that's exactly what I tell people in the groups is like what what def, what makes you stand out and different. Like I had 3 of my homeowners just last week actually. A homeowner was taking care of it himself one time, and then 2 other, and I'm not, they're the exact same company that these clients came from here. It's a large company. They're like, Heather, I thought you were full of shit when you were telling me X, Y, and Z. And they're like, I can actually feel a difference in my water and I can actually see a difference in my water as well. And you can, like, if you look at my before pictures and my after pictures, once we started doing it about 3 to 4 weeks later, it's night and day. I don't know if you know this, but did you ever see the picture of Steven floating in our pool in Plano? And it's like crystal clear and he's passed out.
yeah, face down,
Yep,
can't
yep.
breathe. Yeah,
Yeah, face
no,
down,
no,
can't breathe. Looks like, but his,
no.
his arms are up, so his nose and stuff isn't in the water. But he's passed out, and I showed that at my CPO class, and everybody's like, "Is that photoshopped?" I'm like, "No, that's because it's me taking care of my pool because I do things a lot differently than Joe Blow down the street does, and it's night and day. And y'all do the same thing with your chemistry too. And Will is very OCD.
We're
Used
we're
to be.
probably we're probably not that tight. Our
No, not
our amen
anymore.
yeah, our amenities you're buying is you could call us whenever, you could text us whenever. We're faster. You could go, hey, I got an issue. We might be there the same night. Like you're paying for quality, and instant, but that also costs money. You know.
Right,
So if you argue out a service call, well, then we'll be like, I'll be there next week then, like whatever,
right,
you know. But if you want to pay, we'll be there in about 15 minutes if that's all right with you. So I mean, you're
yeah.
you're paying for quality, but also we're not a great value company, and everyone knows that too. They know they could find someone cheaper, you know. But the thing is we solve your problems completely, you know. I mean, so it's a different thing, so when even a customer asks me, they go, why are they cheaper than you? And I go, well, because they're a different company. I go, they solve different problems. If you want great value, go for it. It's not, I'm not here to haggle with you for that, you know.
Oh, it's so funny you say that because when client, okay, so people say this is probably kind of bitchy, but it's just me. I'm gonna say it like it is, right?
Yeah,
So when
Tarrant.
clients, yeah, I don't tear into them unless I have to.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't had to yet, thank God. But if it's a client that's like, oh well, it's immediately over my price range. And my con back to this is, yeah, I figured our service is too much for you to afford, and that's okay. Here is Joe Blow's company to call that is a lesser quality, but still gives you great service, so to say. And that immediately, when a homeowner hears, oh yeah, I know you can't afford my service, mentally what they're thinking, it does something to them. And I've gotten 3 clients just in this past 2 weeks by using that phrase
Just big dick
because
and egos.
but yeah, I mean, easily. And coming from a woman especially, you know what I mean? It's it's
That-
even worse.
I mean, our deal is, I mean, that's it, But I mean, we get enough calls, and and the thing is, I don't want to be the cheapest guy out there, anyways, because I don't want that guy. I don't want that dude. I don't want him as a customer,
Problems, just problems all day
like,
long.
yeah. If they go, oh no, if you could give me a deal on this, I'll use you for all my repairs, and I'm just like, dude, if I give you a deal here, it looks like I'm just giving you deals for the rest of my life. And no, I don't install online products. So get that through your head right now too before you get a Black and Decker pump. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I want to circle around back real quick about the software. So, what made you, minus the cost points, go back to Ion?
Um, the cost point.
That was it.
Oh, I mean, I don't need a computer to tell me what to do. I just need it to organize and do its job. And Ion, I input like 300 people in that thing. And yeah, it syncs to QuickBooks, but it really doesn't. They all don't. You're gonna have to
The
change
web
every single.
connector.
You have to change all the emails and the addresses and put the numbers where they belong.
Yeah, you have
So
to input for Ion to work properly. You have to input it correctly in QuickBooks to sync and vice versa for it to sync back over. But we've been using Ion. God, we used Ion for like 10 years in Dallas, so we just started doing that
yeah,
automatically.
but I mean, I'm also, you know, what are you gonna solve for two times the money I'm gonna give you? So I don't care if it has a better feature on routing the pools. Download an app, plug them in there, use your eyes, and go, I'd like to go there first and in there last. Okay. Like you don't, I
But
don't
to
need
be
to
fair,
pay.
Devin, but wait a minute. To be fair, let's talk about these non-single polars that have somebody like me in their office that doesn't know jack shit about directions.
Yeah.
And then
That's,
I'm sending you 45 minutes away.
yeah, no, yeah,
So
I
you
know,
got to
but
take that in consideration
no,
too.
you do. You get very angry. That's,
Okay,
that's,
so listeners, I got to tell you this story real quick because everybody that knows me and that knows me well, let me rephrase that, knows there's four big flaws about me with business, and I tell everybody this: measuring a tape measure, unless my little tape measure has the little dots on there, I will not be able to tell you the half inch, the quarter inch, blah blah blah. I have to have it on my tape measure, right? So that's flaw number one. So that's why my tape measures, I know the difference between mine and hubby's is because mine has little cheat marks and hubby throws it out the damn window and I have to go buy another one because he laughs at me. Problem number two, directions for me, absolutely not. You ask if Devin was to say, hey Heather, this job is right off at 35 and 635 in Valley Ranch next to the McDonald's heading east. What? I know where 35 is, and I know where 635 is, and I know where, right, the major intersections, but which way is east from where I'm at? I have no clue.
yeah,
Don't ask me. So for us, like the pinpoint software was, it had to map and map well for us because I am horrible with directions.
road
Horrible.
warriors.
100%. So I sent Devin on a job that was at 45 minutes to an hour away because I, in my head, was thinking it was 15-minute drive. Uh-uh. It was a 40, and Devin calls me bitchin'. He was like, Heather, why the hell are you sending me 45 minutes away for this bullshit diagnosis? I already
Yeah.
know what's wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I know.
Oh, I'll
Yeah.
never forget that job.
Oh, trust me. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. So I hand the phone to Chris, and Chris is like, don't go. I'll head out there because Chris wasn't far. So
But even on that, you could just punch the address in and you'll know where it's at on the map, right?
yeah,
So,
no, I have to know where you're at, plug it in on the map, plug in the address, and be like, okay, you're this amount of minutes away.
yeah.
I'm that directionally challenged. 100%. Never fails.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we had more money than we could shake a stick at, then maybe I'd try out, something else. But I mean, it's just like sitting
What are
down with
other
that,
softwares that you've looked at if you had more money that you would consider?
none of them. But if I did and money wasn't the issue, then I would test more of them out.
Oh,
Um,
no.
and then also the money part of not an issue is also paying someone to transfer that many things into that
Over.
software and then make sure it actually works.
Yeah,
I
so you don't
don't
lose
want to I
all
don't
your
want to hit
history.
it and it just shows me the entire road of this whole
Mm-hmm.
street and you drive there and you realize you're just on the far end of it, and you have to correct a comma and you got to correct, just an E, in valley or something. You got to figure out what's one word, two words. Yeah, so that's the part since I input all that stuff in, I'm really not interested in most of it. And at the same time, I think also a lot of our guys know that they need to route their stuff, you know. So that's part of it. And if they need help, ask the office. We'll help you out. But part of it is them routing their stuff. not just staring at a blue line all day. Like they need to kind of, work on some navigation skills, you know.
Well, I know Ion routes it because we route all of ours with Ion. That is one good thing. One thing I don't like about Ion on the routing side is it doesn't route your
Yeah,
entire, like if I want to redo the entire route, right? There's no way to export it and into a routing. I mean, you can export it into a separate routing software to do it that
yeah,
way, but it has no way to route the entire
deal.
routes that you have inside of Ion. I mean, so if you're adding one new pool, you can go in, hit the little person, and it'll tell you, hey, this is who's closest on this day. So it routes it that way for you. So that's great. So Ion's got some flaws as every software does, and it's just picking software is so hard for each
It's just
business and each
cheap.
needs.
So, I mean, it's hard to complain about it because any other option just doubles my money, or
Yeah.
triples it.
Yeah.
Or from the sound of it now, it multiplies it by about 20, So
I know. I
yeah,
can't believe, like, I mean, as an organization, so it talks about a lot of people are talking about Skimmer having to pay back their investors and actually starting to recoup some of their money back now, which makes sense because as an
yeah,
investor, when you invest into it, you want to recoup that money, but slowly, gradually, kind of increasing stuff. And if you increase it, what value is that consumer getting with a double, allegedly, right? I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but a double cost increase. And why are we, increasing? I get if you get their marketing, or not marketing, but their
accounting.
accounting, it's a little bit cheaper, which is great. But outside of that, like what value are they providing for the additional increase? Because like anybody, right? You put yourself in a consumer's shoes. If you're going to Ross to buy, where I like to buy my little, as I call them, my little heel boots, I'll spend money on Ross on those heel boots all day long. They're $20 versus going to like Burberry and buying a Burberry. I can't even when we had a crap ton of money, I just can't see myself buying that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it hasn't solved any problems for us yet. I mean, we still have every pool written on a whiteboard,
I know.
so or a white wall, I
The
guess.
name of it, at least, not the address. It's the names. But when I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
that, I asked Will, I'm like, what the hell is this? Are
That's
you
what keeps them
redoing your
comfortable.
route? He's like, I
No.
need a visual.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest, our routes are crazy unoptimized, but it's mainly just because some of the areas have such density and they've been in with a certain person or whatever that it really doesn't bother anybody.
Yeah.
Once in a while I'll look at that and my OCD will kick in where I'm like, man, we should, if we
We're
tighten these
missing so
up,
much money in
yeah,
gas and
you would
tolls and
spend a whole day, on a block, right? But at the same time, they like who's going there, no complaints. So you're kind of like, well, whatever, if
why
they,
change? Yeah, because that
yeah,
happens here. So speaking of that, that's funny. So here in Florida, I didn't really hear it in Dallas so much because like we didn't have a very high turnover rate, and here the turnover rate is tremendous, and that's just because the workforce here is night and day compared to Dallas people, right? It is. And I hear that a lot from homeowners here. They're like, well, I've gone through like six people in a month and a half. I'm like, what? How? So one of the guys too at the NPC committee that we were conversing with owns a very, very large building company, and he does everything from servicing to building to remodeling, you name it, they do it to the pool, outdoor kitchens, all of that. And his training process is 2 years, 2 years, even for pool cleaners, 2 years. And so I kind of sat down and had a conversation with him because I've never heard of even a pool cleaner having a 2-year training. And I was like, what do you do for the 2 years of your pool cleaning? He's like, well, the first year I get them with the manager. They ride the route for about 6 to 8 months with
ooh,
somebody. Yeah,
oh
six to
my
eight months.
goodness,
They ride the route with them. They go to CPO classes. They take their CMS and they take their CST. So immediately they're CPO, CMS, and CST certified. So of course, like I'm doing my plug, like, hey, if you need that, I can do that for you, right? He's like, well, that'd be great, but they actually have somebody on staff that teaches all that. So that's awesome. So they have their own training facility. Then they have the hands-on training, like how we had in our office where we had all all the controllers, all the pumps, all the heaters, where we would do like the training there, and then for the homeowners too. So they have that for their service technicians, all the ORP systems. So they would spend several months going through that with programming, wiring, learning how to do, that sort of stuff. So that's part of the process too. Then they would go through a customer service training for their company and learning how to get better at people skills and that aspect. Then they would get brought into the office to learn like I did, right? Where Cassandra would go into the field and y'all would come into the office sometimes to learn how to do the office side. So they cross train that way as well. And a couple of more items that, he asked me not to disclose, but that's a majority of it. And that's a 2-year process with his company. And I mean, just think about that. For a company that is spending 2 years training a pool cleaner, that's not even like his service technicians. That's a pool cleaner, but he does a 2-year training for everybody. It doesn't matter what you do in this gentleman's company, they do 2-year training. But just think about the knowledge that he's actually giving these employees and how much time and company resources they're actually providing for this individual to grow their business. And one big thing that he says is he never hires somebody with experience, ever. It's always somebody that he pulls from like a drive-through or a a store somewhere, it doesn't matter. Nobody with pool experience. That's his one caveat that he has.
Man, that he must be growing money on trees, at a very high rate because we're a little different.
Yeah, no,
You
when
know?
he told me that, I mean, like we had a full blown like hour and a half long conversation at dinner over this, and I'm just like, it just blew my mind because like I do business coaching, right? So never in a million years would I tell somebody unless you hire a third party like Chris and I to come in and train for you. How do you afford that unless you're doing one at a time? And even the one at a time, what happens if you grow, all these questions started popping up. And of course, we were, debating back and forth and what you do and what you don't do and how he does it and like his processes and procedures, which, he asked me not to disclose. So I can't really say that on the podcast. But it was just, it blew my mind. I was like, I still, well, I love the value and the education you're teaching the individual just as a company standpoint. It's costing them an arm and a leg, like, and we went over the cost logistics of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a bit much, to be honest. I think it's too much. If you can't figure this out, on a basic level within a month, then we're already gonna be questioning. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, we have support groups built, so you have access to 2 supervisors that'll walk you through anything you ever get lost on. They'll be there. I'll be there. We'll be there. But I don't have time for that, at the same time, I'm more I guess, we want them to have momentum, right? Like I personally, I wouldn't be able to work for a place like that because if I want to learn something, I'll do it. Like I don't need you to hold my hand, right? Like I'm a little bit, faster at the hip.
And proactive,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like for me, if you were to tell me you're gonna have to stand still for 2 years and then you get to become this, I'll go, well, I'm skip that, happily.
Yeah, because like
Like,
promotion, like nobody wants to be, I mean, most cleaners start to learn a trade, right? And then they
yeah,
want to progress within 2 to 5 years is about the average where people start to progress within a company. And if you're just training for 2 years and that doesn't even allocate the amount of time it takes to progress into like a service technician, next whatever the next step is in the company, it's it's a lot for an individual to really go through.
yeah. Oh yeah. So it would attract a certain personality, but that's not the people that we're interested in general. I'm
Yeah.
not saying anything's wrong with it. Maybe it works amazing, but
Oh
in
yeah,
our
he says it
sense,
works great for them, and that's where my head starts to throw up because I've been on the employee side and I've been on the employer side. So my employee side is like, if I can't progress in this company for a minimum of 2 years, either A, something's wrong with me and I'm just dumb as shit and I can't catch on to this, which happens at certain things, right? Or lack of confidence in said employees, what also comes into my mind, and then bunch of other things. So I was just I was just shocked when I heard that. We had a long conversation. We had to end up leaving. We almost closed the place down.
yeah,
I'm like,
no, I couldn't do that. It's too weird, you know. Because I mean, we want folks that want to strive to be more independent but work as a team, right?
Right.
And
That's our golden people.
yeah, yeah. So it's like I'm looking for killers. You know, I'm not really looking for um, you know, folks that want me to hold their hand for 2 years because I wouldn't be able to do it. You know, and I don't mind if you make mistakes, make them. You know, make them faster. Like, you know, let's learn faster. You know, but I don't need to control someone for that long and then allow them to learn the why. You know,
And
okay, you know what, but you don't know the why because you got to run your head.
100%.
Yeah, you got to put your head in that wall a couple times for that clicks,
And most
right?
people learn better by screwing up. It
Yeah.
implants in their brain. I know I sure do. Like on our last pool build when we left Dallas, I you know the story on that. That implanted in my brain. And it was so funny. Like Skip, which is a major trainer at Genesis, like I was going over this with him. I'm like, yeah, you want to hear something that because he was going over like his first pool, he screwed up. I'm like, I got one better for you. My last pool at a Dallas, I screwed up on the depth, and here's my why. Cost us, 25,000, something like that off the top of my head. But lesson learned, I'm never gonna do that shit again.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That'll never happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I still
you
talk
know.
to, and it was Miss Martin's pool, you know what I mean? So, and we're still bestie friends. She calls me all the time. In fact, she called me yesterday. She was like, how do I get this pool out of service mode? So I walked her through how to get her stuff out of service mode. And then we just started bullshitting about her kid and when she's coming in and blah, blah, blah. And so,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a I yeah. I'll be curious. You know, obviously, when we start having more than maybe like 12 to 15 cleaners total, you know, then we'll probably have to. I mean, well, we experiment every time. If you come here and train with us, you're an experiment. So, like, sadly enough, you know, like, because we're trying to make sure it's the most efficient way, and we're trying to figure out how people learn, you know, and I, you know, and I like mixing it up too. I want you different people all the time. That way, you know, they're just going to see things differently, you know.
oh yeah, because nobody does stuff the same way. And it's hard in this industry because it's like everybody tries to fit where it's one way for everything. And that's definitely not the case, right?
Yeah, no.
You've got some major stuff like you can't add calcium with soda ash, right? Obviously, we all know that. Don't obviously those are a given, but like everybody's about adding acid. You're because obviously acid when it's added to the pool, it sinks to the bottom. So then there's that big debate: how do you actually add acid? Do you actually mix it? Do you just dump it in the pool? Do you dump it down the skimmer? I've had people to dump it down the skimmer. Please don't dump it down the skimmer, right? So it's just so many different ways to do things, and it's always good to have that refresh. Like the way that you install a heater is different than the way Chris installs the heater, but it gets the job done and it's still done to code and accurately.
Well, he's doing it wrong then.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus.
he's doing it
Uh,
wrong. He's got to step his game up.
I'm telling you, it's been a
His
bit since he's installed a heater, so it's
his
been a couple
sediment
years.
traps go up. Okay, by the way, he's
He's never done one that's gone up. They've all gone down.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I bet.
Not that I know of.
I bet.
Maybe Steven's went up.
Yeah,
Freaking Steven. I miss him.
yeah.
Um,
No, he's still going after it.
good, good. All right, guys. Well, this is Heather and Devon with Dive In Decision. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Until next time, we will holler at you later. Do you have anything else to say, Devon?
No, that's it. I'll see
All
you next
right.
week.
See you next week. Bye, guys.